Hey Chris, welcome to this week with cyber threats. Who knows what's happening or what's gonna break this week? But just so we're talking, let's share some of the stuff that we're talking about
Okay.
around what happened with LastPass. There's been a lot of press
Oh man,
around it, but
have you ever seen something that's been so like people give their hot takes and then the hot takes are like all over the board?
it's
Like some
crazy.
people, yeah, some people's hot takes are like you should dump LastPass immediately. Okay, Did, but are you going to give people a reason why they should dump LastPass immediately?
No, I think
And
like you said earlier, the LastPass did a lot of good things around this. They've been pretty. We think it appears they've been pretty transparent with what's going on. There might have been some issues up front where things that should have been encrypted weren't encrypted in their data models, but going forward after the incidents, and we do say incidents.
yeah, I to give people a lay of the land. Uh, if you didn't know, last August they got breached, and at the time they thought that they had contained it. They'd hired a Mandiant to come in and do instant response. They thought they had it contained. Well, in October, they announced the second incident, and it was people's backups of their password vaults being stolen. The the vaults are still encrypted. The vaults are still encrypted with your master password, and they're also essentially salted, and basically they're protected against brute force. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot more technical details, but
It'll take a
the
long
chance of
time.
them, yeah, the chances of them getting in those vaults pretty slim. However, they do have access to them, so they can now attack those over time. So obviously the best case for most people is to change your master password and reset every password you have. Right now, if it's a site that doesn't necessarily matter per se, if it gets hit, okay, you can make that determination yourself. But if it's something important like banks and your business data and stuff like that, you should change it. Okay, that could happen to any password manager company, right? Let's let's be
Sure.
clear. This could happen to any company. Well, a couple days ago, LastPass released more details, especially on the second incident, because they'd already made a bunch of changes. So each incident they've posted on their support page a total breakdown of the incident and what they've done, which is awesome. Which is actually the level of transparency here from that is awesome. You can argue that their product doesn't do something as well as some other products. You can argue that or whatever. That's an argument that can be had. But this attack wasn't about their product. This attack was about what they had. They had customer vaults, right?
Okay.
So the whole point was in the first attack, the threat actors figured out what they needed to get to, how they could get to the vaults. The thing is, it was shut down quick enough that they didn't get to it. So in the second attack, it looks like on the surface that they just needed to get. They figured out that the stuff was stored in AWS and Amazon, and they knew that they were going to need keys to access the storage account, and then they were going to need the decryption keys because those storage accounts were still encrypted with a special encryption key that only LastPass had. Amazon
Okay.
didn't. Well, sometime between August 12th and October 26th, they hacked one of the four DevOps engineers in LastPass that had access to that information. It was his home computer. He was running a media software package that appears to be Plex from everything that somebody says. That was
Could have been anything.
it could be, and it was apparently published to the internet. And they were able to install a keystroke logger on his device that gave them access to literally anything that he typed. So when he
So,
was on his home
so
computer,
you're saying sorry, but you're saying there was one of four people at LastPass that
yeah,
that actually
yeah,
had the keys,
yep,
and the bad guys targeted them and got
yep,
one of them. Okay.
yep, yeah. So this is sophisticated attack. This is not like somebody sitting in their basement attack. This is a group of people that were very patient and used different tactics and techniques in each attack and different indicators of compromise in each attack. So they didn't even look the same. So advanced, and they got a keystroke logger on there. So he was logging into the corporate network, which you can argue you shouldn't be doing that from a home computer, but he logged in. He authenticated to the corporate vault. They were able to capture his credentials, capture his MFA, dump his entire LastPass corporate vault, and they got the keys.
Wow.
So even though they had MFA, which MFA is not bulletproof, people will say, should you have it? Absolutely. Is it bulletproof? No. There are ways around it. So they got in and they got the information, and then they went and they attacked Amazon. And what happened is Amazon has something called guard duty. So if you start doing things like in the identity and access management portion, or what's called IAM, it alerted LastPass that user was trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing. Okay. So that's how they got caught. Well, they didn't really get caught. They don't know who it is yet, and they may never, because they did a good job of covering the tracks from the first incident and the second. But anyway, they got the information. They got in. They were able to exfiltrate the backups. They were able to exfiltrate some really important stuff for LastPass. But as far as customer data, they got the backups of your vaults, but they still have to crack them. They still have to get into them. So they may never be able to get into them. They may be worth nothing. But no, but
too bad they don't have bragging rights for them. But yeah, the data's sitting there. They could put a lot of resources against it.
And one thing they can see, though, is they can see your URLs, and they can see, I believe, some emails. So you're more primed to be phished for the passwords now than anything, because if they know that you log into like Amazon with this email account, then they know that they can probably trick you with an Amazon phishing email. That's more the danger at this point. Now there could be more dangers like if they actually get into a vault, obviously then they're going to have passwords. Yeah, but if you have multi-factor authentication,
so everything in that vault wasn't necessarily encrypted, because they encrypted what they felt was sensitive at the time, but there's more data there that can be used for phishing.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to see your LastPass email account. So most people only have like one major email account that they use for all that stuff.
Cool.
And they can see the URLs. URLs were not encrypted, but like secure notes were encrypted. Like the passwords were encrypted. So unless they get into the vault, unless they can decrypt your vault, like they're not going to get access to it. Again, though.
And the big takeaway, everybody, is they have the vaults as they existed when the breach happened. Changing your passwords today on the vault itself is not going to keep these guys out, and it's not even going to matter. But changing the passwords in the vault to use something else, it would be a way to protect your accounts.
Now, if you put your passport ID, your social security number and stuff inside of that, then at some point, if they do get access to it, obviously you're going to want to address that. They could get access to that information, but honestly, you probably already gave up your social security number from like from a credit agency getting hacked before this is going to get hacked.
Hey, when I was in school, they used to post grades on the wall with the social security numbers because that was the student ID.
2 years ago, I got a letter from a university I went to in like early 2000. I went 2000, 2001, and they allegedly had my social security number on a laptop that got stolen and wasn't encrypted. And this was like 18 years later. It's like, really? Like, why am I still in your system like that?
I could top that one.
No.
My wife got an email from a university, and on the to line, instead of her name, it had her social security number. So that's not even part of the encrypted email traffic.
Yeah. So I think what Bob and I are trying to say is like, getting hacked is one thing, and that's bad. But this could happen to any company. What happened to them could happen to anybody. And It doesn't matter what password manager you use. It doesn't matter what kind of company it is. This could happen to anybody. There are other techniques out there that are being used against other password managers that we could dive in later that can gain access to your vault. And if they gain access to it, yeah, it's a problem. But these people that are railing on the cloud being insecure and all this other stuff, and like you should dump LastPass, like think about it from a perspective. Just let's take a minute, take a breath, and look at it from the other perspective. They've made a remarkable amount of changes since the first breach, and I'm sure home computers will probably be banned now. I'm just going to guess that.
Probably are already.
Yeah, because they did put that they worked with them to secure their home network. So I'm assuming there's other things that are going in.
So why don't we back up a little bit? The reason that they've made all these changes because they actually ran incident response and actually figured out what happened, and that's is that a 10-minute project?
No. And also the reason that they're releasing this stuff like months later. So, we're at the end of February when they released this into the 1st of March here. They they were delayed for a couple of reasons. One, it takes a little bit for forensics to go through and it's a response. But two, they still have to get it past their legal team, right, to be able to publish this stuff. So it takes time. But what I want to appreciate about this, and I wrote a long LinkedIn post, I put a video out there for this, is just like I had 4 big takeaways from this. And the first one was, we already talked about this. This can happen to any company. And remember, LastPass has a huge target on their back because they have information that people want. Right? Sure. If you're a medical company, you have information that people want. You have health records. If you're a manufacturer, you might have trade secrets that people want. Or maybe you have a customer that they want to try to hack, and you're the jumping point for that. So you have to think about it like, if you have a big target on your back, you're going to get attacked more. So you have to be even more vigilant about how you have a security program and how you run that, and you're going to have to make changes. Look, they got hit, they admitted to it, and they're making changes to do it, and they're telling us what they're doing. This attack illustrates the dangers of an unmanaged device. A home computer accessing your business, a home computer, home tablet, whatever. If it's unmanaged and it's accessing your corporate data, there's only so much you can do to protect it. When somebody gets a keystroke logger on their computer, whether it's a home computer or your corporate computer, once that level of access is obtained, there's not much you can do about it. They're going to be able to get the information that's being typed in. So, and there's other things that people can get, but like, just take that for what it's worth. And then number 3, it illustrated how sophisticated of a threat actor and how patient they were to make this happen, because they discovered in the first incident what they wanted to get. They identified what they wanted to get. They identified the crown jewels they wanted to get to, but they couldn't get to them in the first attack. They knew they had to do a second attack. And like I said, they somehow figured out one of the 4 DevOps engineers, they knew that the person was running something that allowed them to get into their computer, and they knew they were accessed from home. That's a lot of information to grab. And so it'll be interesting to see if they release how they figured that out, like how the threat actor group figured out, like it was his home computer, his IP address, all that stuff.
So what I want people to really understand that this was a highly targeted attack to get data that they specifically wanted, but everybody's got a target on their back right now, because if your account gets if your PC gets compromised or your email account gets compromised, I don't care what company you are, there's people that are going to be able to use that data the data that they get there for evil.
Yeah. And you look at their strategy, like their strategy up until this point wasn't bad. Like if you look at the changes they had to make, they added strategy pieces to it, and they had to make some tactical decisions that changed. But it wasn't like they were just like wide open.
Right.
Like it wasn't like they were just a wide open. They got targeted and they got hit. You can look at some of these counties that are getting hit and stuff like that. Like Oakland is reeling still. I just saw, I think it was a place in Boston got $6.4 million stolen from their retirement accounts.
There's
different. It's like every day, right? So what can we learn? We evolve and we learn from failure. Their systems failed. Whatever failed in their systems, between human and technical, it failed. Right. So they're looking at it and they're trying to make changes to it. And I think that's what we all have to do in our business. We have to look at like what do people want from us? What do we have that people want? It could be money. It could be secrets. It could be access to our customers. Like what do they want?
I think the lowest level what the bad guys want is money. Everybody out there watching this anywhere has a business bank account. And what would happen if that bank account was gone tomorrow?
Or what if they trick you into wire frauding $250,000 or $500,000 or whatever?
Or they call you up and they pretend to be the bank and they just get on your computer with you and do it. So it's really, there's high tech. This attack with LastPass, it was a targeted cyber attack, and they had to know what they were looking for and how to get in there when they got in there. But a lot of these attacks that we're seeing now, they're ultra low tech, guys. It's just picking up the phone and saying, "I'm the bank. You've got a problem. Let's work it out."
Yeah.
And
there's a report this week too that T-Mobile was accessed more than 100 times by SIM swapping groups last year. 100 times. It was so bad that this goes to that. Like if you want to talk about security, they've had 2 major breaches now, and It was so bad that SIM swap, where they transfer your number out to somebody else to another SIM card. T-Mobile last year were about half the cost of Verizon and AT&T, and that really brings the reason why. And if it was true that they were actually inside the T-Mobile network more than 100 times, it explains it. It's just easier for them to deliver, right? So again, everybody's a target. This can happen. How we address this, how we look at this, how we learn and evolve from this is going to make us all better. But I want people to, especially vendors that we deal with, companies that we deal with, if you get hit, be this transparent or more. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what you're changing in your business to make sure this doesn't happen again. And you know what? It's probably going to happen again.
Yep.
It's just reality. But show us the roadmap. And LastPass, to their credit, is doing that. You can argue a little bit about like their transparency before that and stuff like that, but they have a roadmap. They're addressing it. They're telling us what they're doing to improve it for their customers. And I appreciate that. And I think every vendor should follow this. And I'm sure I just made every lawyer cry, like throw their head into a pillow by saying that, because this is a risk for them too, right? Because they're opening themselves up. But like, just be transparent with us. Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, well,
that's all.
Transparency helps everybody because we know how we can see different attack vectors and really put controls in place to try and mitigate it. We're going to stop it. No, if anyone says they're going to stop it, they're lying, because it's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, we all have trust issues, man. I don't want to have more trust issues. I have enough trust issues in my life. I don't need every vendor having trust issues.
Anyway, we've gone a little long. Let's get back to what we're doing. And
if you comment right now. If you see this in the future, comment. Let us know what your strategy is if you get hit. Let us know. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to copy the LastPass and be transparent about it? Or are you going to hide? I'd love to get comments on that.
Yeah, because most states, guys, require you to report it, if not all of them.
Yeah, especially depending on the number of customer records. But yeah, just let us know. Let us know what you're doing, what your plan is. If you don't have a plan, that's a good thing to talk about, like getting that plan in place. But yeah, just let us know. I'd love to see this. I want to kind of maybe come back to this and follow up with this and see.
Definitely.
Cool.
Okay, guys, have a good week, and we will see when we get in trouble in next week.
Okay. All right. Have a good week.